Now available in paperback and e-readers, all about Nikki, a fabulous first season. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air meets Clueless in this absolutely fabulous African-American 1990s teen sitcom. Get all 13 episodes of All About Nikki, the fabulous first season, in paperback and e-readers today. Better get the go slow, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. CBS has decided to cancel The Equalizer after 5 seasons. Now, The Equalizer debuted to a lot of fanfare after the 2021 Super Bowl, and this reboot of The Equalizer debuted showing Queen Latifah taking over the role that Edward Woodward starred in back in the 1980s, playing Robin McCall, a CIA agent who would go out here and look to equalize things as related to meting out justice using her covert operations training. Now, the series made a big splash coming on after the Super Bowl in 2021, and over the course of 5 years, the show has gotten a following over time, and as the show has gotten a following over time, sadly, as it was going on, ratings started to decline, and as ratings started to decline, this is where the producers came up with a plan to try to wrap up the show if they did not get a season 6 renewal, and they came up with a plan to make sure that the 5th season would end in a way that could be a season finale if they did not get the pickup or renewal for a 6th season. And on May 4th, The Equalizer came to an end on CBS, and after it came to an end, CBS announced it had no plans to renew The Equalizer, basically leading to The Equalizer coming to a close. And as The Equalizer comes to a close, there are some that are speculating that this could have possibly been racial, because CBS has also decided not to renew the show SWAT, which starred Shamar Moore, and has some speculating that this possibly could be because what CBS is trying to do is get rid of black shows. However, as someone who has studied the entertainment industry, I can tell you what's happening here with CBS is that what they're looking to do is start to cancel a lot of older programs, because the older programs basically are costing them a lot of money, especially after the 2023 WGA and SAG strikes. Now, in the aftermath of the WGA and SAG strikes, CBS would have to pay more money for many of these older productions, and these older productions, as they again are on the air, they're costing more. However, the number of viewers watching these programs has basically declined, and as the audience has started to decline, these shows are no longer profitable for Paramount Global, the owner of CBS, and they don't want to continue taking a loss on these shows with them having to pay higher salaries for not only actors like Queen Latifah, but they also have to pay higher salaries for the writers and showrunners of these programs. Now, when it comes to shows like The Equalizer reboot and shows like SWAT and shows like Blue Bloods, yes, these shows are favorites for older audiences, but these shows really are not skewing the demographics that a network like CBS wants. Now, CBS was the #1 network for many years until we had, I think, about the pandemic, and they have basically been struggling as of late, and they've been struggling as of late because they have an aging lineup, and as they've had this aging lineup, they've been dealing with issues as related to their overall content, and they've been dealing with it because much of their content basically is extremely old, and like shows like NCIS, which has gone on for about 25 years at this point. I mean, shows like Blue Bloods, which has gone on for about 15, 16 years, and with with SWAT, it went on 7, 8 years, and in TV years, that's a very long time to have content on the air, and that basically makes it harder for you to be able to put new content in slots that can basically generate more revenue, because you've got these older shows in these spots. And as you've got these older shows in these slots, yes, they are on and they have an audience, but that audience is starting to decline. So that means you're not able to make as much money to be able to sell ad slots to as related to things. And what further exacerbates this situation is that when it comes to television, television has lost 50% of its audience. So these shows are not getting the audience like they did back in the 1980s, when CBS had to participate in a similar plan to get rid of a lot of their older shows. Now, I remember back in the 1980s when they had come out of the 70s with the dominance of All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Alice, and many other shows. I mean, what happened with CBS is that they went into a slump after the cancellation of all of those different shows, which went on for many years, that gave them dominance in the 70s, and they were forced to go through a curve as related to things with shows like Doctor and many other shows. Now, they did have hits like Designing Women in the 80s, but CBS struggled for a long time until about, I would say, the late 90s, when Bill Cosby came along, and then they had Everybody Loves Raymond and The King of Queens that led to a surge in the 2000s, and they dominated from about 2000, I'd say 5 or so, to about 2020 or so. But the thing is that right now, in the mid-2020s, looks like somebody at Paramount Global wants to restructure CBS, and what they want to do in the aftermath of these strikes is go out here and look to try to trim some of this old dead weight from these older shows. Again, these older shows basically cost a lot of money, and they're skewing older demographics. And as they're skewing older demographics with a median age of about 50 or so, because Queen Latifah is in her mid-50s, Shamar Moore is in his mid-50s, Tom Selleck is in his 70s, I think what CBS is trying to do is regroup, and trying to regroup in a way that allows them to skew much younger, because the thing with television is that we've lost a lot of audience, and what they want to do is regroup to try to create new content to reach a new audience. And in order to do that, they have to let go of several of these older shows. And this is just par for the course when it comes down to the TV business. And anyone who's been in the business or studied the business for a long time, we all know that eventually what happens with networks is that they do go out here and purge blocks of shows like this all the time. I mean, it just happens all the time with the business. I mean, what happens is that as the audience starts to change, they want to again reach that new audience, but in order to do that, they have to let go of older shows. And when I look at CBS's schedule, they have several shows that have, again, gone past 7, 8 years. Shows like The Neighborhood with Cedric the Entertainer, shows like Blue Bloods, which starred Tom Selleck and I believe one of the Wahlberg brothers, and Donnie Wahlberg, I believe. And you had Queen Latifah's The Equalizer, and you had shows like SWAT with Shamar Moore. Again, these shows were made with Gen X performers, but those Gen X performers are in their 50s, and CBS, I believe, wants to regroup and possibly start making some content for much younger audiences in their 20s and possibly their 30s. So what they're doing is canceling a lot of these older shows that have been on the air and again been way past their shelf date when you consider how television works. And as someone who knows how television works, I know that usually when it comes to a show, 5, maybe 7 seasons is as far as you go before everybody starts thinking about wrapping things up and moving on, even if a show is performing well. Because I remember in the days of the 90s, you had shows like Seinfeld that were doing well, but Jerry Seinfeld realized, hey, it's just time to wrap it up and move on, even though the show was doing well. And they offered him money to do that show. But when there comes to a point where you just need to leave, because again, you don't want to stay on too long and get your show canceled because you don't want to be in that place. So smart people back in the day, after maybe 5, maybe 7 years, would wrap up their show and then look to move on to another project. Some would move on to films, some would move behind the camera, and others would just go out here and chill out for a minute, work on some business ventures like real estate, or work on doing things like flipping cars and stuff. This was before YouTube. They would do different things, and then if they could get another project, they would go out here and take another TV show as related to a pilot or a new series And that they would do this, and again, after people forgot about them, do a new show, and this is how they would go on for a while. I mean, this is just how the business is, and this is how things went in the entertainment business. There was no sort of controversy regarding it. I mean, shows come and go, and back in the days of the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, again, shows would be gone after 5, maybe 7 years. I mean, it's a miracle these days. You got shows like NCIS going on over 25 years, Blue Bloods going close to 20. I mean, shows like The Neighborhood going 8, maybe 9. I mean, Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men went over a decade each. I mean, that was never heard of when I was growing up as a kid. I mean, back then, TV, again, show was gone, people moved on, and the same thing's going to happen here. I mean, The Equalizer finished up meting out her justice and is now going on to the world of syndication and will possibly be seen on the PAX network or TNT or even on Tubi. Those are the places where you'll possibly be able to catch The Equalizer at this point. You possibly will be able to catch Queen Latifah in the role of The Equalizer, and the Queen possibly will go on to go do another project, possibly as a mother or a grandmother at some point, because she's in her 50s, almost 60 years old. I mean, just what's happening here with television is what happens with the business of TV. I know I keep repeating that, but I want you to understand, as someone who knows the entertainment industry, shows get canceled all the time, and you don't get upset about it. You just charge it to the game and move on. And usually smart people are making plans to move on even before the show is canceled. I mean, most people already got plans to go on if the show don't get renewed. They're possibly working on other projects like getting a movie or getting another TV show where they're doing a guest spot or some type of role. Others are working again behind the camera or other business ventures. Nobody who works in Hollywood sees it as a bad thing. They just see it as a part of the business. Now, I know the business is changing, and the business is changing because of the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes. I mean, I know that there are less jobs out here, and again, a lot of those jobs are ending because the studios just can't keep affording to pay for these shows. I mean, a show like The Equalizer cost $1 million an episode, and with it costing $1 million or more an episode, they can't afford to keep these shows on the air when then they can go out here and go find a guy like me, buy one of my book, script, screenplay books like All About Nikki, make themselves a sitcom for far less with no-name actors, and then launch that and launch it for cheap and basically be able to keep that show on the air because you're going to be able to generate ratings, and then as you're generating big ratings, you're getting bigger revenue, and it's costing less in proportion to cost than an hour-long show, because what people don't know is that hour-long shows are harder to sell in the secondary markets outside of broadcast. They're very hard to sell in syndication or able to put on streaming. Usually 30-minute shows like sitcoms can be sold a lot quicker, and possibly that's what CBS is looking to do, try to find some smaller budget content that will allow them to generate more revenue. And they have to do that because they've just lost a lot of audience. I mean, when I think about the world from 2019, I mean, you used to have shows like The Big Bang Theory and other shows like that on. And again, people used to watch those shows. I mean, I used to take time to watch shows like The Big Bang Theory. Again, 30-minute show. But CBS these days doesn't really have anything because they haven't been developing any new content. And now they're going to have to go through that curve where they have to develop new content. And they figure, okay, let's develop this new content. This old content is going to cost us too much money. So we've got to go through this pain, got to go through this rebuilding stage because we had a good, nice period. I'd say they had a good, nice period from the area of Cosby, Everybody Loves Raymond, NCIS, 2.5 Men, Big Bang Theory. They did very well for a lot of years, but now they're going to go through a bit of a struggle period. This is what happens all through time with television networks. It happened with NBC in the early 80s, happened with CBS in the late 80s, early 90s, happened with ABC around the early to mid 2000s. I mean, it's just all part of the cycle. And if you know the entertainment business, you know how TV works. And it's just going to be, again, a rough period for a lot of people who, again, saw these characters like family. I mean, you're going to be having to deal with a time where you're not going to be able to see your friends anymore on regular TV, but they'll always have a place in syndication and they'll on cable, and they'll always have a place on streaming. Now, if you want to check out my own TV show that I wrote, all about Nikki the Fabulous first season, you can check out the first 13 episodes of that show in my screenplay book, All About Nikki the Fabulous first season, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to check out my first full feature film screenplay, All About Marilyn, which is basically based on, which All About Nikki is based on, you can find that screenplay book as well on Amazon.com along with All About Nikki. You can also find it on Kindle as well. And if you want to check out the world of action and adventure in the SJS Direct universe, you can find all of those fictional stories in the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, my vampire novel Eternal Night, my Black Goth Spinsterella series, and my Black business novel Recipe for Success, and my Black sorority novel The Thetas. You can find all of those stories on Amazon.com along with All About Nikki and All About Marilyn in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me talk about the entertainment industry and how television and media work, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle, All About Marilyn. Learn all about the struggles of a faded former teen sitcom star in this absolutely fabulous 5-star screenplay. Get All About Marilyn in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.